History is absolutely packed with dark chapters, right? I mean, brutal wars, terrifying pandemics, you name it. But there is one specific point in time, one completely terrifying era that stands head and shoulders above the rest. It's literally the most catastrophic, apocalyptic nightmare humanity has ever faced.
But look, before we really get going with this explainer, I do need to give you a quick warning. The historical facts we're about to dive into represent a seriously grim reality. We're going to be looking at unprecedented global catastrophes, mass starvation, and merciless disease. This isn't some dystopian movie script. This was the actual, lived reality of the human experience.
So, let me ask you, when you think of the absolute worst year to be alive, what comes to mind? Maybe 1347, right at the peak of the Black Death. Or maybe 1914, with the outbreak of the First World War. Or, maybe you're thinking of a couple of recent years we've all just lived through. Well, think again. You honestly have no idea how bad things can actually get.
Section 1, the worst year ever. We are going way back to late antiquity, specifically to the year 536 AD. And let me tell you, its terrifying reputation is not just some viral internet myth. It is a historically backed, scientifically proven reality.
This isn't just me hyping it up either. Modern-day medieval scholar Michael McCormick literally nominated 536 AD as the absolute worst year to be alive. To have an expert in medieval history, an era that's already notorious for being brutal and harsh, single out this one specific year, man, that tells you everything you need to know about the horrors our ancestors were about to face.
Section 2, the Icelandic eruption. So, what triggered this global nightmare? It wasn't a war. It wasn't some political collapse. It was sudden, completely explosive, and totally unpredictable.
Far, far away from the bustling centers of medieval Europe and Asia, a massive volcanic eruption went off in Iceland. It violently unleashed this enormous, terrifying cloud of soot and volcanic ash straight into the upper atmosphere. Now, the people living in Europe and China, they had absolutely no clue what was happening in Iceland. All they saw was this massive, ominous cloud roll in that just completely swallowed the sky.
Section 3, 18 months of darkness. A volcanic winter had officially begun. And the scariest part? That cloud did not leave. It just stayed there, completely blotting out the sun and plunging half the world into an unrelenting, terrifying shadow. 18. That's the number of months humanity was forced to endure a grueling, pitch-black volcanic winter. 18 continuous months. Just imagine waking up day after day, week after week, month after month to a dark, ash-filled sky. No direct sunlight at all, just a constant, suffocating gloom hovering right over the Earth.
So, the real question is, what actually happens to a planet when the sun gets blocked for a year and a half? Well, global temperatures plummeted by 2.5 degrees Celsius in just a single year. Now, that might not sound like a lot at first, but to put that completely unprecedented climate shock into perspective, a 2.5-degree drop is nearly halfway to the average temperature drop we saw during the last ice age.
Section 4, Summer, Snow, and Famine. The immediate fallout of this violent temperature drop was bizarre, terrifying, and ultimately deadly. The Earth's climate was, for all intents and purposes, fundamentally broken. I mean, it literally snowed during the summertime in China. People were freezing in what should have been the absolute warmest months of the year. Crops and vegetation all across the world simply withered up and died in the cold and the dark. The whole thing was just this horrific cascading catastrophe. It's like a giant, deadly row of dominoes. The sunlight gets blocked, so the temperatures plunge. Those plunging temperatures bring on summer snowstorms, which directly causes widespread, catastrophic crop failure. And when the crops fail, the animals die, which leads directly to unprecedented global famine. People were quite literally freezing and starving to death in the dark. Section 5. The Justinianic Plague strikes. Because, incredibly, humanity's nightmare was really only just beginning. Just as the global population was freezing, starving, and politically unstable, they got hit with a devastating, inescapable final blow. Right on the heels of the famine, the deadly Justinianic plague swept across the Mediterranean, taking hold around 550 AD and sticking around for 2 entire centuries. This massive bubonic plague pandemic basically capitalized on the physical weakness and political uncertainty of a completely devastated global population. And the death toll? It is almost unfathomable. It's estimated that tens of millions of people, up to 50 million souls, were completely wiped out by this merciless disease. Nobody was safe. The world was already broken, and now half of everyone you knew was dying from an agonizing plague.
Section 6. The Antique Little Ice Age. Now you would think the skies would eventually clear and the world would just bounce back, right? But it didn't end quickly. This disaster ushered in an entire century of hardship that fundamentally altered the Earth.
Just look at this timeline of misery. We start with the 536 AD eruption and the darkness. Then, right at the peak of all that suffering in 550 AD, a plague strikes. And the climate? It didn't truly recover until the year 660 AD. That is a relentless, century-long sequence of pure, unfiltered misery. So, what kept the Earth so cold for so long? Well, after that initial 18-month volcanic winter, subsequent volcanic eruptions happened shortly after, prolonging that massive cooling effect. This literally locked the planet into what historians call the Late Antique Little Ice Age. It was a 130-year period of severe cold and hardship, making human recovery seem almost impossible.
It really forces us to take a hard look at our own reality, doesn't it? Our modern world relies so heavily on delicate supply chains, massive agriculture, and fragile technology. If a super eruption happened in Iceland tomorrow, if the sky went completely pitch black and temperatures plunged globally, how long would our modern luxuries actually protect us? Could our civilization withstand the ultimate historical nightmare? It's a pretty chilling thought to leave you with as we wrap up this explainer. Until next time, stay curious.